life transitions, they come at us all in every stage, in every walk, and every journey at different times. This past fall, October of 2020, I knew I was turning 49. And yes, the big 50 is just around the corner. And I have lived my life at times so unintentionally. And just let times and seasons flow by without marking, that I really wanted to be intentional about on the road to 50. And so I started this blog and I started doing some other things, and then I took a hiatus and allowed some personal reflection and personal moments, and it's really spurred what I'm so excited about the rest of 2021 is going to hold, and lots of exciting things coming forward. But as I knew I was moving forward, I also wanted to reflect almost in a bullet point kind of way on what was the roads that got me here. And, well, I did it. So I wonder about, I, as a spiritual director and a yoga therapist and the director of the Mongoliso Listening Academy, I'm guiding people through 6 months of formation into then an 18-month program to become spiritual directors. One of the side courses within that project is writing your spiritual autobiography. And as I came up with my bullet points, man, I hit some ones. And so I'm going to just start. And I'm really curious as you reflect on where you are, whether you're 10, whether you're 70, whether you're in your 30s, whatever walk or station of life you find yourself in, I really want you to take a moment. Take a moment and bullet point for yourself some of the highlights. So I started my highlights 30 years ago. So here we go. 30 years ago, I ran away to join the Amish. I'm not joking. I did find Jesus instead, again not joking, and that is a story in and of itself. Sadly, though, after finding Jesus, also found religion for over 20 years. Again, not joking. Eventually, I would meet a therapist who suggested yoga. And that was really such a pivotal, powerful shift in my life. I had been deconstructing my faith tradition at that point for quite some time, becoming much more contemplative than any kind of constricted or construction of religion or faith tradition. And so I was ready. And the reason I stipulate that, to hear the words of that therapist to say I should try yoga, because I was so disembodied. And I wonder, I'm going to pause here. I wonder, where do you feel detached? Detached from your physical body, detached from your breath. When was the last time you took a deep breath? And I'll tell you, there have been pivotal moments in my life, but that therapist recommending yoga, as I look back, was probably one of the most powerful ones. Sadly, yoga and charismatic evangelicalism are a little like oil and water. They don't really mix. Not joking about that. And lots of more deconstruction ensued. But I did take to yoga like a fish takes to water. I then did a 200-hour intensive. So for those of you that don't know, the base level of education a yoga instructor needs is a 200-hour yoga teacher training. I did that. I followed it with a year of extra trainings. And there's a long story there that I will put on this playlist about why, what of my 200-hour yoga teacher training stood out to me, what module, what were the extra trainings. They dealt a lot with trauma and restorative yoga, and really empowering people to come into or claim or reclaim a different relationship with their body and the sensations and emotions that are felt within it. I got my first office. I then got my second office, which has a window, for those of you that do know that. And that was the big thing. My first office didn't have a window. My second office has a huge window. That was a big deal for me. I took 2 years of my life and completed an IAYT training program. During some of that time, not that I thought some of the abuse of power and celebrity or guru culture only existed in the church, but during that time, my eyes were very much awoken to how alive it is in the yoga and yoga therapy cultures. But the powerful thing was, instead of being in my 20s or 30s, as I confronted those spaces within religion in the church, this time I was 47, 48, 49. I'd been around the block. I had learned a couple things, and I emerged from that situation finding my voice and my body and my ground in huge new ways that really put me on my feet, and I thought set space for what the next 5 to 10 years were going to be. And last summer, I was getting published in a bunch of different publications in regards to how to bring yoga therapy into corporations, what was applicable, and I really thought that that would be my path. Come end of September, beginning of October, I got COVID. And COVID really changed things up in regards to, while I had what they call a mild case, the long-term effects of COVID have really landed upon my body in regards to the fatigue, the brain fog. Again, so much more about that coming. What COVID recovery and recovering from getting COVID has done in my life is really, once again, offered me opportunities for transformation. Amidst having to slow down, I learned a lot about myself in regards to what I did, because I thought that's just what you do when you have a business and you want to be successful. And I got a pause. And so when I talk about even having gotten COVID, I look at it as a gift, because the recovery drew me back into nature and drew me back into the woods. In November, my 21-year-old son and I would hike up to the Roanoke Star, which should probably take not long at all. It took me very long, but my son was so gracious. But what in those moments began to transform my life was the outdoors. Once again, connecting to the trees, to the air, to the light, to the beauty. And that November day really did land upon my person. The winter of 2020 and 2021 really transformed my life. I was raised in a family where, like, the cold is the cold and you don't really go out much. Yes, we skied, but we just didn't go for walks when it was bad weather. And this winter, I've really transformed. I invested in some base layers and in some liners for hands and feet and head, and have really found that the saying is right. There is no bad weather. There's just not enough clothing. And have found myself, who hates the cold, outside on weather horrible days, really enjoying it and breathing in fresh air again, really finding that transformational space in nature. So what will the rest of 2021 look like, and what does the road to 50 for me look like? That's a great question. So I'm taking some road trips, being COVID conscious. More about that soon. I've been hiking at least 2 to 5 times a week, outdoors. I never camped before. My mother's idea of camping was staying at a Holiday Inn. Caveat there is that in the last couple of weeks, I've stayed at a Holiday Inn Express in Clemson and a Marriott in Charlotte, and I would go stay at the Holiday Inn Express at Clemson far more than I would go stay at the Marriott that I stayed at when I went to Charlotte. Anyway, all that to say is I am embracing my love for road trips. I am embracing the fact that I knew this all along, but I always waited for the weather to be right instead of just jumping in. And I love the outdoors, and I really see so much beauty, so much wisdom. the thing that I loved, and I'll end on this because this is such a big point of even going through my life chapter by chapter, bullet pointing, right? And so when you bullet point your life and you take a moment to reflect, I think for me, the biggest lesson learned was I remember being so enthralled by the idea when a yoga instructor would say, it's your body, your practice. What I would then come to would realize that whether it's 60, 75, or 90 minutes, the yoga teacher is still telling you almost exactly what to do with your body. And we abdicate that space because there's the supposed expert. They know the postures, they know the movements, they know the transitions and the breaths. But they aren't the expert of your body. And more on that subject another time. But even then, as a yoga therapist, again, I was taught to show up as me and allow the client to show up as them. And then there was this shift within the school that I graduated from that took so much of that away. And once again, put more priorities on methodology, right, than the humanity of it. Well, I can look back of the progression of my life from a time before 30 years ago when I ran away to join the Amish, when my life and my body wasn't about my life and my body. And many other hands and individuals tried to claim and reclaim my body and my life for themselves and their benefit. So that was why it was so impactful to hear in yoga, it's your body, your practice. Those seeds have germinated and sprouted wings. And I'm so determined to really advocate for the A's of Mangaliso, right? The A's of amazement. And that's to teach agency and authority, to teach autonomy, to look at abdicating and the spaces that we abdicate to find amazement. Those 5 A's of Mangaliso living. And I want people to stop abdicating spaces of their lives, their breath, their being, for somebody else being the expert. So having said that, the hiking world, and it's really pulled me in. You know, they too have a saying, it's your hike, hike your hike, right? Because even being on so many different boards for hikers and watching through hikers and instructing and educating myself, I love the way they even talk about equipment. Certainly, everybody has their preferences, whether it's brand or ultralight, but they recognize that that's what fits their body and their temperature and their goals. And so they really challenge individuals to find what works for them. And everybody's hike is going to be their hike. Everybody's body is going to take to the earth and the ground and those trails the way that their body is going to. And and so it has been such an incredible space these last couple of months that I took kind of a hiatus from doing my On the Road to 50 publicly and took some time privately. And what I've discovered is I have this nomad spirit in me, and we do live in the COVID era. So how did those things merge? And getting out to nature has been a huge thing. I've reconnected in really powerful ways to myself and to spaces that I want in the future that I didn't even ever know that I had or that I would have dreamed of. And so much of that is about hiking and taking in the world of trails and terrains. Having said that, I am about to embark on a car journey on a road trip. So that's the other thing. In this private time, I've learned I love the outdoors. I think nature is so healing, and having long-term COVID, I have found such solace in hiking what I can hike, hiking my hike, right? And thank goodness I have some very gracious hiking partners, aka my kids and my dog, that are really very supportive. I have learned that I love being in the car, and I love car trips. And I've learned to listen to myself and what I feel is important in ways even if I can't fully explain it. And so I am about to embark on a trip to take me from Blacksburg, Virginia, all the way to Key West, Florida, because I feel like in 2021, I want to touch the most southern point on the eastern coast of the United States of America. And then in the winter, I want to drive up to the most northern point of Maine and touch that. And I just feel like in this year before turning 50 and in this year of my life, there's something in that. And my dreams just kept getting bigger and bigger. And even the spaces to listen to my heart and my vision. And so much of that came from those reflective spaces. So here's the deal. Take some time. I'm not promoting my course on spiritual autobiography. This is about you. But I do want to say, whether you take into spiritual autobiography or you just bullet point the highlights of your life, take a moment, pause and slow down. Lengthen your breath, because taking a longer breath and slowing down helps to bring your body and your nervous system into this moment. And some of those bullet points, while I zipped right through them, hold a lot of pain, right? But I'm present to that. And so as you look back and you bullet point those places, take a moment. Recognize the patterns of your spaces that you've lived. Take a moment and recognize the things that bring you joy. Take a moment to recognize the things that you abhor, the things you love. So take some time. Sit here together, in the palms of your hands to your knees as you roll your shoulders down your back, lift through the crown of your head, lengthen your breath in through your nose, and exhale out through your mouth. And repeat that for a few breath cycles. Then take a notebook, take a scrap piece of paper, take a sticky pad, grab a pen, and write down just even 5 highlights from your life, 2 reflections on where you are and where you want to go, or however many you want. And then begin to cultivate a dream, recognizing the passions in your life, where you've been, where you want to go, and where you are now. I can't wait to share these upcoming journeys with you. Basil is going to be on some of them. Kids are going to be on some of them. There's going to be some full of some movement and meditation, and some just fun ones. So, yeah, hook up on for the ride, and let's go exploring and discovering where we can claim and reclaim the expressions of our lives and expand into it. Talk to you soon.